Talking with strangers, or how I beat social anxiety. Hi, my name is Bill Lennon. I am the founder of 40% Better, and this is one piece of my journey, which is how I beat social anxiety by starting conversations with strangers. And this is the first step in getting over my social anxiety, is being able to talk with strangers. So let's jump into how I did it and how you can replicate the same system that I use to get started. So here's a very short backstory. I had decades of social anxiety. This started in my childhood, and I was well into adulthood, and still struggling with this, and it was just a part of my life. And I didn't think it would change. I didn't realize it was something I could change until there were some new drivers in my life in my early 40s that I realized, oh, I actually need to do something. I need to make a change. And the two drivers were, number one, my career, where I realized that I needed to be able to talk with strangers because I needed to be able to network to be effective in my career. And the second thing that happened was I was about to be a dad. And I did not want to be a negative role model for my kids. And so I realized I really needed to do something to change the way that I operated in the world so that I could be a better role model for my kids. Here's what you need to be able to make this happen, right? The first thing, and I talked about this already, is motivation. You need to have a reason to want to change. You need to have a reason to want to get out of your social anxiety. Now, for me, both my career and this big life change of being a parent, those were huge motivations to drive me forward into this idea of I need to change my life and get out of my social anxiety. The second thing is you need to have a game plan. You need to have something that helps you understand what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And because it's talking, you need a script. This is basically building a system that anybody else can replicate. You need a predictable approach. And after you do this a few times, you'll also get predictable outcomes, which is really valuable also. You're going to need to have skills. You need skills to support your game plan. Every plan is just an idea of what to do. The skills are the very tactical parts. I might want to drive across the country. That might be my game plan. But if I don't know how to drive a car, then it's not going to do any good. And driving the car is a skill. And then last but not least, practice. Everything that we want to do, that we want to become good at, that we want to have be easy, requires lots of practice. And when you're moving from social anxiety to social ease, you need to have a lot of practice. It takes more than 5 minutes. So talk about skills. So the first of the skills that we need, and the most important, because we're dealing with an anxiety, is we need distress tolerance. And distress tolerance is the proactive ability to deal with our negative emotions. Luckily, this isn't very complicated, and there's decades of research around this. So here's the first part that we need to be able to approach our distress tolerance. We need to have values and priorities. Remember I mentioned motivation a minute ago? Values and priorities are your motivation. This is what's valuable to you, which may be very different from what's valuable to me, and how you prioritize your life. So you have to be able to get those things squared away to be able to jump into doing the actions to first minimize and then eliminate your social anxiety. The second thing is, in the moment, you need to be able to do slow exhale breath. Slow exhale breath has got a ton of research behind it. There's a small mountain of evidence about how this impacts our stress levels. I learned this as a competitive athlete when I was a kid and automated and habituated to it. And I practice it all the time, even when I'm not stressed. I practice it all the time because when I need it, I want it to be easy to do. And anything that we practice when we're not stressed, we can then leverage when we are stressed. Slow exhale breath is very easy. You just inhale for a count of 3, exhale for a count of 9 to 12. The mechanism here is that it slows down your heart rate, which reduces your cortisol, and it also reduces your adrenaline level. So you can be calmer. And then of course the last skill, congratulations. Congratulating ourselves when we've done a repetition, when we've done the practice, is really valuable. And it helps us to learn and remember and internalize this thing that we want to make a habit. So these are the skills. You want to have values and priorities. You want to have slow exhale breath, and you want to do congratulations. And all these are going to help to reduce our distress tolerance. So here's a game plan. This is the game plan that I used. The starting point is I want to stack the odds of success in my favor. I want an environment where people are going to be friendly and they're going to make this an easy practice, right? And so for me, that happened to be Starbucks, because I know that people at Starbucks are paid to be nice to people. That's their job. So the chances are that I'm going to get a good reaction from somebody when I go into Starbucks and I talk with a barista. Now, you may have some other kind of a retail establishment, but for me, this was the easiest way to do it because they're always going to be there, right? The next thing is time box. 2 minutes. This time box is valuable because you can handle almost anything. You can handle almost anything for 2 minutes. And so I set this up to be only a 2-minute exercise to get me started talking with strangers. Now, you're going to have to remember to do slow exhale breath before you talk to somebody. So I did it outside Starbucks. I did 8 to 12 repetitions to really get my heart rate down and get really calm. Then I walk in the door, and then I would speak a script. Remember, I mentioned before, having a script is really valuable. It gives us predictability of what we're going to say. Excuse me. And then we're done. We're going to leave and we're going to congratulate ourselves. That's the game plan, right? That's it. Those simple steps, that's the whole thing. What do you need out of that we haven't talked about yet? Well, we're going to need a script. So here's the script. And again, it's very, very simple. You've walked into Starbucks, and what are you going to do? You're going to order a drink, or food for that matter. It doesn't matter what you're ordering, whether it's a drink or food or a glass of water. Then you're going to receive the drink. And then you ask them, how's your day going? That's it. Just, how's your day going? And however they respond, your next line is, thank you, and I hope the rest of your day goes well. And then you're done, you leave, and you congratulate yourself. Now you want to make this a habit. And to make it a habit, you need repetition. Remember at the beginning we said you need repetition, right? So you want to do this at least once every day, right? And every day you need to be thinking, how can I get my reps in, right? Now, I used to have a significant Starbucks habit, I will admit it. But even on days when I didn't feel like I wanted to go to Starbucks, I went and I ordered a glass of water so I could get the reps in. Now, it took me a couple of weeks before this was easy. So it wasn't like I was doing it forever. And then I was looking for the next piece, right? But I was practicing this at Starbucks. I practiced at the grocery store. I practiced this at any place I went to that was a retail environment. And for most people, going to the grocery store or going to someplace like Starbucks or the equivalent coffee in your area or a tea shop or a boba shop is a retail opportunity. And then the other thing in terms of the habit, and it's easy to make it a habit because you're going to all these places, right? I do it in restaurants also, is just setting the expectation that I'm to do this forever. Because if you want to build a habit, it's most successful if you just plan on doing it for the rest of your life. So, this was how I approach this to make it a habit. Now, to get over the rest of my social anxiety, I had to have some other increments. This right here got me starting conversations. And for me, that was the big initial hurdle. But you have to have a conversation that lasts more than 2 minutes, right? So what are the increments that I went to? I started off 2 minutes at Starbucks. And then I went to 5-minute networking events. And when I started doing this, there were lots of networking events around here in the real world where I could go to a meeting, go to a networking event, and get to meet people. They were pretty well organized, pretty consistent. There's a ton of those online now. It's even easier to do this now than it was then. The next level is 15 to 30-minute networking events. And what I've found is that, again, there was online versions and there was live versions, and I started going to all of those. It didn't take me very long until I realized I was really comfortable and relaxed in a 30-minute networking event, and that talking with strangers in that context was easy. And the next thing for me was I want to be able to present, because that was part of my career path. And so I started presenting to my software team, and that was it. Just my software team. It was a handful of people, and I told them I wanted to use presenting as a way to improve my skills in this arena, and they were totally cool with it. So these are the increments that I use. Now, I've had to teach this to both of my sons because they both struggled with social anxiety coming out of COVID when they were going back to school. For both of them, all they needed was the conversation starter. Everything else for them was easy. I'm a slow learner. So what's going on for me today? Now, I've been practicing this for more than a decade. So I start conversations with strangers randomly all the time. And it's very, very easy. The second thing is I love doing public speaking. Now, when I decided I wanted to get good at public speaking, just like I started off doing presentations for small groups, I went at public speaking with the what's the small steps. Right? I had to figure out what it was that made me uncomfortable, and that's a whole different recipe, but it was how I approached getting comfortable with public speaking, and now I love it, right? The other thing that I realized that's a huge game changer for me is I'm just relaxed around people. I'm not afraid of them anymore. And last week we went to a big conference and I was walking around, and it wasn't my conference. It was all strangers for me. I was there supporting my partner. I had a really easy time with all these people that I didn't know. And that's incredibly, it's just a wonderful experience to have, right? So here's a quick recap. Things for you to remember, the high points. Number one, having a game plan for what to do when you're starting conversations with people, or even if you're doing bigger networking events. Having a game plan is really important. You want to have an environment that's going to support the exercise and the practice you're doing. For me, it happened to be Starbucks. Any kind of retail will do. Number three, if you're going to be talking with people, having something scripted makes life much easier. Now, I built scripts for the networking events, so I had a canned set of questions that I knew I was going to ask people, and that really made those much easier to go to. You want to make sure to congratulate yourself whenever you do a rep, no matter how it went. The congratulations is important. It's not about the quality of the event. And last but not least, repetition. You got to do the reps over and over and over again. Hope this is helpful. Got any questions, by all means, put them in the comments section here or send me an email. My email is hello@40pb.com. I'll put that in the show notes also. I hope you're having a great one. Thank you.